also during that time, because of a renewal project was going on in downtown, the city of Atlanta offered Central Avenue Church a sizable amount of money, about $79,000 to relocate, which they did, and some of the members agreed with that move and some did not. But on Easter Sunday, 1929, we moved into our new home on Easter Sunday. And if you look at your map, you may say, well, it says 1928. Well, we did have a year there. Most of the money that we got from the city went towards building the church. So the church had to save up more money in order to be able to furnish it. So we had services at, up here at the YMCA, and also one of the theaters that was located in the area at that time. We also have, if you look, these two posters, and some of you may have already seen this. This one depicts where we are now with the Mercedes-Benz. I didn't realize how, this is an aerial view, how huge it is, but you can see that now. And this map is actually from 1949. And the community during that time, we were right surrounded by homes, even in towards the back of us, in the front of us. And we had the YMCA that was up the street. And then we had here on north side, which was Davis Street at the time, you had buildings here that was a theater and shops and restaurants and things. So very thriving area. Black-owned businesses. Yeah. With the move to Mitchell Street, the church decided to drop Avenue from our name, and we just became Central Methodist Episcopal Church. And some of our new members may have wondered, the gate up front that leads down to the prayer garden still says Central Methodist Episcopal Church, and that is why. Around 1939, as Julie was talking about earlier, Central's name changed again. And that was because of the merger of the Methodist Episcopal Church, North and South, and the Protestant churches. And we then became Central Methodist Church. How many members here remember when we were Central Methodist Church? At any point, it was in 1939, but we were Central Methodist. I wasn't here then. This was Central Methodist Church for a very long time. The name did not actually change again until 1968. And 1968 was a very significant time in our country, in the Methodist Church, and here at home at Central. And so our name changed because of the merger of the Evangelical United Brethren Church and the Methodist Church. And then we became known as Central United Methodist Church, which is what we are today. Okay. I just want to say, back up and say, I don't know if I said this or not, our church on Fraser Street no longer stands today. And because records were not maintained like they are now, we don't have any historical documents from back then. But you can only imagine blacks trying to survive after the Civil War and trying to learn how to live, and so I guess it wasn't as important for them back then to keep track of that. The church on Central Avenue is no longer there today. Actually, there's a parking garage, if you're familiar with the underground Atlanta area, that's a garage, and that's where the church stood. And an interesting point to make, we were doing the renewal projects that were going on in downtown. We were the only church that was forced, well I say forced, but we were the only church that had to move. There are 3 historical white churches that are still downtown in that area today. And actually the one directly across from where we were, the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, is known as the second oldest structure in downtown Atlanta, something that we may have been able to say if we were still down here. But we had a beautiful church on Central Avenue.
The Lloyd Street Church was started in 1868 and probably was finished around 1870. They worshiped the white folks worshiped in the basement, you know, from 1868 up until about 1870. And in 1870, in 1872, they finally finished the building that, you know, that became known as the Lloyd Street Church. And of course, then the blacks went over, you know, in 1875, and the whites left. They started leaving probably when they heard that the merger was taking place. So they were all gone, my guess, about 1876. The whites were gone and left it as a black church. And so you can imagine, here's a black church downtown Atlanta in a white area, so to speak. So I'm sure the city fathers started, you know, thinking a long, long time ago, before the 1920s, how can we get these blacks from downtown Atlanta? And so they claimed urban renewal, you know, whatever, but that didn't happen. They haven't really done anything with that lot. And but the other thing is, if you read Miss Hampton's history of Central, whoever negotiated the sale of the $80,000, $79,000, whatever, there are no minutes, you know, in Central's minutes saying who did the negotiation, who agreed on the money. So I think it was kind of an inside deal done by people in the denominational office, you know, and city fathers. The local church had nothing to do with it, from what they could tell.
So here we're going to take a break. I wanted to mention the mural. Julie said something about it earlier. Of course, Bishop Clark is one of the only, these are one of the only few pictures we could find of Bishop Clark. Hunter Street and Davis Street, Northside Drive was Davis Street at that time, and MFK was Hunter Street. We have, this mural actually represents a lot of our historical leaders, civil rights in particular. You have Reverend Joseph Laurie here at the bottom, and he came to Central in 1968 and served here. He was the longest serving pastor that we have. He served here for 18 years, and he stressed social and civil community involvement. And we had a TV ministry. Anybody remember the TV? Doing his ministry for several years. And he also attracted many of the young people from the surrounding colleges, particularly Clark's College that came to Central. We also have Yvette Massey, who was our last pastor, came to Central in 2013. And she is our first female senior pastor of our church. She actually guided us through what they say, history repeats itself. We had another project when the Mercedes-Benz came along, and it was a question around, are we going to stay here or are we going to move? And this time the church council voted, and the decision was that we are going to stay in this place. But she helped guide us through that time. We also have Bishop L.S. Allen. And Bishop Allen and Lorenzo King were the two pastors, former pastors of Central, that went on to become bishops after they left. He was also involved in civil rights and social justice. And he was responsible for a large renewal project that we did here at the church. And before I talk about that, I'm going to mention a few other things about the church itself. And then we had Ella Mae Brayboy, who's known as the godmother of voter registration. And she was instrumental in bringing a lot of people in to vote during the, I guess, the 60s and 70s. And recently had a park named in her honor. Does anybody remember Mrs. Brayboy here at Central? And I also want to mention, we had, now you may hear people say Central's 153 years old, and then you may hear somebody else say we're 90 years old. Well, the difference there is that we're 153 years in existence, and 90 of those years are here on Mitchell Street. So that is the difference if our new members hear that. We had a chance to, Julie and I, when we were having our 150th anniversary, which is called the Sesquicentennial Celebration, to interview one of our members, Nancy Johnson. And she's actually the only living member now that came over from Central Avenue Church. And don't say Lord Street, she said she didn't go back quite that far. But she talked about how different Central is from when it was when they first came here. This fellowship hall was actually a gymnasium. And you had the kitchen, you had the stage here, but the prayer garden that was named, dedicated to Reverend Gray, was actually a playground. And she talked about how they would always look forward to coming to Central after school to take in all the activities that were going on. And we had many kids from the E.A. Ware Elementary School that came to Central, joined Central, and stayed here at Central for many years. E.A. Ware Elementary School no longer stands today, but they did take the facade of the front of the school, and it's still there now, and I think it's another building, I don't know what
They
building.
make it a wide.
Wide, okay, that's connected with the outside facade and the front of the building is still there. The steps that lead up to the sanctuary were not here at that time, and you had to enter from one of the outside doors or from the prayer garden coming through the building. Our parsonage was for our, which is the building next door, was actually